would like to welcome you to today's program, We Were There. This program is presented by our partner organization, the 9/11 Tribute Center. The moderated conversation you're about to hear is a new addition to the museum's regular auditorium programming, which also includes Facing Crisis, America Under Attack, a short film featuring original interviews with President George W. Bush, New York Governor George Pataki, and New York City Mayor Rudolph Giuliani. We invite you to join us for a screening of this film at 5 p.m. or during another visit. The exhibitions at the 9/11 Memorial Museum are filled with first-person stories and the voices of people who experienced 9/11 and its aftermath. The recognition that history is written out of the stories of real people is at the heart of the mission of the 9/11 Tribute Center and the basis for We Were There. Our partners at the 9/11 Tribute Center created videos to tell you a little bit about their organization and the programs they offer. Following the video, we will be joined by our moderator, Judith Pucci, and two speakers from the 9/11 Tribute Center. Please keep in mind that there will be an opportunity to ask questions of our speakers at the end of the program. This program will run for approximately 30 minutes. Please note where your exits are located and turn off all electronic devices. We ask that there are no photographs or recordings, especially since these are speakers with the Tribute Center. And please keep in mind that we will exit towards the front at the end of the program. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lee Ayala. I'm the president of the 9/11 Tribute Center. I'm also a board member of the 9/11 Memorial Museum. The 9/11 Tribute Center was started almost a decade ago by myself and Jennifer Adams. We brought together people who were deeply affected by 9/11 and built a community that is devoted to preserving and sharing their 9/11 experience. We felt the need to give a voice to those people who had their voices stolen from them on 9/11. At the 9/11 Tribute Center, and here at the 9/11 Memorial, we share our stories with visitors every day. Our tour guides come from what we call the 9/11 community. They're all volunteers. They're either family members, rescue or recovery workers, survivors that came out of the county, volunteers from all over our beautiful country, or people that live and work in the area and will witness the things that nobody should ever see. I'd like to invite you to take one of our tours on the 9/11 Memorial by one of our Tribute Center guides. In a few moments, you're going to hear two of our guides tell a little bit about their personal stories. By sharing our stories, we help others understand the impact of 9/11. The Tribute Center is a place of healing, support, and a testament to our strength. We hope our stories inspire you to remember 9/11, and that you strive to make tomorrow a better day.
Lovely to see so many of you here. Thank you for joining us. Let me welcome you to the 9/11 Tribute Center presentation of We Were There. My name is Judith Pucci, and I'm a Tribute Center walking tour guide. As Lee just told you in the film, the Tribute Center is made up of people whose lives have been directly affected by the events of September 11th. And we are a very diverse group. We're of different backgrounds, different ages, a normal course of life many of us would never have met. Now, it's very different. Now we share a powerful bond. And tribute is our home base. It's where we find support, and it's where we tell our stories about what September 11th was like on the inside. So this afternoon, you're going to be hearing two of these stories. They'll be told to you by the people who actually lived the events they'll be telling you about. First is to my right. This is Anthony Palmeri, and at the end is Dan McNally. He was a bomb squad specialist, and he was a detective. Dan not only survived the rescue operation of September 11th, he helped to investigate the 1993 bombing of the Trade Center. Anthony's perspective is interesting. He worked with the Department of Sanitation. You might not think that that department played much of a role, if any. They played a pivotal role. Anthony spent 9 months down here. He was setting up barricades, he was cleaning out buildings, he was washing down streets, and he was hauling away steel. This is the same steel that once allowed the Twin Towers to reach a quarter of a mile into the sky. We're going to begin with Dan's story. Dan was off duty that morning, but like first responders from around the city, once he found out what was happening, he rushed here to the Trade Center. And Dan, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you. It's a little hard for me to tell my story, so if I have to refer to my notes, it's more like a security blanket. You bear with me. I responded to the World Trade Center with 4 other bomb squad members. We had 3 guys up in the bomb squad who met up at the bomb squad office, and there was 3 guys down here, making 2 teams of 3. By the time I got down here, there were 6 guys. 1 guy had to stay up on the corner of Bessie, and then 5 of us responded up onto the plaza to help with the evacuation. By the time we got up on the plaza, the South Tower had just collapsed, and the North Tower was on fire. And it would be impossible for me to describe the carnage on the plaza at that time. But I can tell you why I tried to avert my eyes from the worst of it. I couldn't close my ears to the sound of bodies hitting the deck. It was a very dangerous place to be, and as we were running out and grabbing people off of the plaza and directing them to safety, we were doing so from the protection of the overhang of 2 buildings, building number 5 and 6. And we were directing people off of the plaza down what is known now as the survivor staircase. Right? This is where a lot of the survivors who had survived the collapse of the First World Trade Center made their exit. While we were doing this, I remember there was 2 young officers were coming out of the North Tower, and they had a very large woman with them, and she had lost one of her shoes. And as she exited the tower, she thought that this was an opportunity for her to sit down, like she was going to be rescued off the plaza. Unfortunately, the officers could not hold her up, and I ran over to her, and I remember saying to her, I said, "Lady, if you don't walk off this plaza, we're all going to die, because we're not going to leave you." And, she found the strength that with the help of the 2 young officers, she made it off that plaza, and, she's alive today. Over a period of time, we had a routine. We would rush out, grab people, direct them down to the stairs, right? After a while, me and my partner, Claude Dan Richards, my police department partner, we decided that we were going to make an entrance into the North Tower to see if there was anybody that needed help in there. And as we were about to make the entrance, a bunch of firemen were coming out. And they said, "No, we called it, this evacuation, which way out?" So we directed them to the same way that we were directing civilians off of that plaza. But right behind them was a team of emergency service officers, and they're kind of like the superheroes of the police departments, right? Especially here in New York. And I knew them. And they had been climbing stairs with their heavy equipment, and they were pretty exhausted. And I said, "What's the plan?" And the plan they had was that there was 2 emergency service officers from the Port Authority who had the keys for all the doors in the buildings. And then so we had a great plan. We were going to hit the customs house, sweep through the customs house, picking up any stragglers, and then using their keys, there was a stairwell that would get us off the plaza, down to street level, and out to safety. It's a good plan. As soon as we entered into building number 6, things were moving pretty quickly. I got distracted, and I was distracted for maybe about 4 or 5 seconds, and then when I looked up, I saw my team all the way up in front of me, and I raced up to catch up with them. And just just as I got up to the last man in that team, the north tower started to come down. And you could hear it coming. You know, some people say that it sounded like a freight train going through your head. To me, it started sounding like a mind collapse, like, you know, something powerful, and you knew it was coming. And so I took the lead of the man in front of me, and we all got down, and we got very small. We got on our knees, and we got very small, and we tried to get up against the wall, seeking some kind of protection from it. But as this thing was coming, you knew it was going to be bad. And I was holding on to the guy in front of me for my life. Honest God. I was able to get a short prayer out. I said, God, if you're going to take me, please take me fast. Right? I didn't expect a lot of mercies hearing what was coming down on top of me. So I braced for the worst. I expected a piece of steel come through my back and up my chest because I just thought it would be a fast way to go. And then the ceiling came down, the ductwork all came down on top of us, but you know, then that was it. And as we were getting up, all of a sudden this hurricane of dust comes into the lobby, storming into the lobby, and I didn't have a Scott pack, I didn't have an air bottle on, I didn't have like a self-contained breathing apparatus, I only had a respirator. And so my respirator clogged up and I couldn't breathe. And now I couldn't see because of the dust, I couldn't breathe. And thank God we had, you know, good men with us. And one guy, Marco, he decides that he's going to try to lead us out of this building. I had this building collapse. And so he took the lead, and I'm holding on to him. And another guy's holding on to me underneath my ribs. And we're going to try to walk out of that building as the way we came in. And he only gets about 10 feet, and then he has to stop. And the reason why I stopped was because there was no more floor, and there was no more walls. There was nothing. But I couldn't see that. I didn't have I just couldn't see it. So we had to back out, and over a period of time, enough of the dust had settled out, I was able to make out shapes. And I saw a civilian with a flashlight. And about the same time, I noticed that 2 guys were missing. Actually, there were 3 guys missing, but I only knew at that time that 2 were. They were Claude Richards and John Valera. So I grabbed this guy's flashlight, and I go back to where I thought they might have been. And when I came to the edge of where Marco stopped, I realized what had happened. The north tower had come down, and when it came down on top of the building we were in, and it gutted the building. It pushed all the floors down into the sub basement. And I'm looking at this pole, and I can't get down there, and I can't get around it. And I'm thinking, okay, what's going to happen? And by that time, enough air had started coming in, and it started feeding the fires down in this hole. And it was just burning steel and whatever else was down there. And so I knew that if them guys were behind me, they were gone. So after a period of time, enough of this dust had dissipated, and we could realize that we could make it out onto the plaza, that we could get out of this building, make it onto the plaza, and try to make it off onto West Street. And when I came out, I was greeted by even more carnage. It was a pedestrian bridge that went across the highway that was collapsed on top of a fire truck. Fire trucks were on fire. There were 2 firemen down on the street. I thought, they're going to rescue us, but they were worse shape than we were. But we had called out on our radios, and 2 police officers who had run away when the building started to collapse had run back to try and find us. And they found us, and with the help of the firemen, they were able to get ladders up on, and we were able to make it down onto West Street and to safety. The 3 guys I lost that day, John Valera, Mike Curtin, and Dan Richards, we didn't recover their bodies until the following Easter. And it's tough when the heavy equipment's working in an area where you think your buddies are buried, and we used to come down here every night with a map showing them where we thought they might have been. Luckily, we were able to make the recoveries for their families. What ensued after 9/11 was like 9/13, 9/14, 9/15. I got activated. I was a Reservist with the Air Force. And I got activated by the Air Force, but I wasn't able to respond to it. I wasn't able to report to the Air Force until January because I got banged up in the collapse of the buildings. And then I stayed with the Air Force for 6.5 years, protecting our country. The thing that really comes away from me for that day was just that I was with really, really good men who really gave it everything they had. And the only reason why I do this thing is because I want to support the Tribute Center and the memorial and the museum because they remember them guys. And that's my story.
The police department awarded Dan their Medal of Valor for the work that he did on September 11th. And as you just heard, he knows he's one of the lucky ones. 23 of his fellow police officers were killed that day, along with 37 Port Authority police and 353 New York City firefighters. 343 New York City firefighters. September 11th stands as the worst loss of first responders in a single event in United States history. Now, many agencies, city agencies, responded that day, and they all shifted into high gear. There were hundreds of thousands of workers who responded. For example, here are just a few of them. Carpenters, pipe fitters, truckers, steel workers, cement masons, all came down here to support the police and the firefighters for the rescue and the recovery effort. Thousands of our sanitation workers were here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Anthony was one of them.
Good afternoon. I'm glad that Dan broke the ice by saying he needs a security blanket because I definitely need mine. It is my honor to speak with you today to pay tribute to the nearly 3,000 people that were killed here on September 11th. I'm going to start off by saying I'll bet each and every one of you that are sitting in this audience knows exactly where you were on September 11th, almost 13 years ago. Doesn't matter what country you come from, doesn't matter what state you come from, I'll bet you know exactly where you were. Well, long before this museum was built, and long before the seats that you are sitting in right now were here, the city was covered, completely covered, with ash and smoke. Right after the towers collapsed. This is what the city and Ground Zero looked like for a very, very long time. And I want you to look at that, and I want you to understand exactly what you're looking at. That's not just brick and mortar from the buildings that collapsed. That's not just office furniture, the rugs, TVs, computer screens. What you are looking at are 3,000 people that were disintegrated in less than 12 seconds when those towers collapsed. I'll never forget stepping foot onto the site for the very first time. My eyes were looking at these two collapsed towers, but my brain, for some reason, it couldn't comprehend it. It almost was like unreal to me. But I remember thinking at that time, if this is real, we'll be here for 10 years just cleaning up. You know, here in New York City, the fire department is called New York Bravest. The police department is called the New York Finest. Sanitation, we're called the New York Strongest. And for 9 months, I can tell you, I worked amongst the very strongest. Together, we put our heart and soul into the cleaning of the World Trade Center. Some of the things that I did when I was here, I drove a truck. I drove a truck to where you are sitting right now. And I hauled away some steel. I took a small portion of the 1.8 million tons of debris and steel that was in the World Trade Center. My partner and I, we would grab a fire hose, and all of that ash that you just saw, we would wash off the buildings, try to get all of that DNA, all of those human remains down the sewers. We washed the streets, hoping, my hope was, maybe to make it a little easier for people like Dan to do his job and the firefighters to do their job. There were 100,000 workers that came here. All of them ate. All of them had to be fed. All that garbage, tons and tons of garbage. Like Judith told you, 24/7, all of that had to be removed. Every store and every restaurant that you might have passed on your way here today, all of that had to be cleaned out of all the waste and debris. As I speak to you now, I can tell you, I can still smell what it was like 13 years ago. I think one of the little harder things that I had to do when I was here is this community. Not only this is where people work. 50,000 people worked in the trade centers. But this is home. To many people, this is where they live. And when the towers fell, many of their prized possessions, their furniture, maybe a personal item that can never be replaced, had to be thrown out. And I did that. But in spite of it all, I truly feel blessed that I was part of this. But I want to leave you with a few thoughts. When you walk downstairs in this museum today, you're going to come across a small portion of the antenna that once stood on the North Tower. When you're there and you're looking at it, I want you to say to yourself, what was it like for those 6 broadcasters trapped in that tower knowing that they were going to die? When you move over just a little bit, you're going to see the elevator motor. I want you to think about not only the thousands and thousands of people over the years that those elevator motors carried, but think about the 200 people that were trapped in those elevators, knowing that they were going to die. And when you pass that New York City fire truck called ladder number 3, think of the 11 members putting on their pants and their bunker coats and their Scott packs, maybe weighing 80 pounds, making their way into the towers, climbing up 35 flights, thinking that they were going to save a life, and yet knowing that they may not make it out. And unfortunately, they didn't. On May 30th, when the site officially closed, the last piece of steel was removed from the bottom of the pit. You will go downstairs and you will be in the bottom of the pit, 70 feet below ground from street level. It stands 36 feet tall and weighs 58 tons, and it's better known as the last column. It was placed on a flatbed truck. An American flag was draped over it. And it was proudly driven up the ramp from the bottom of the pit right to the top of West Street, right next to the memorial pools. And it was followed by the police department, fire department, construction workers, iron workers, volunteers, and yes, even sanitation. Even a guy like me, the sanitation worker. It truly was my proudest moment. But today, I am so happy to tell you. It may sound like I'm not happy, but I am. that last column, it's back home where it belongs. It's anchored downstairs, and it's looking over 3,000 people that were murdered on September 11th. And they will be below your feet as you walk around. But I ask you, when you're there, and you're looking at it, and you're reading about it, I want you to think of the mothers, the fathers, the brothers, the sisters, the husbands, the wives, the children that are left behind. Their September 11th is every single day. Because after 13 years, that's all they have is a memory. I often say, September 11th was the worst time in my life. But it turned out to be the best time in my life. Because I get to share this. I get to share September 11th with all of you. September 11th is not just a day to remember. September 11th is a day to never forget. Thank you.
What Anthony just gave you some sense of was the sanitation department's response to the attacks. It was the most comprehensive and complex cleanup effort in history. Anthony gave you a number. He said 1.8 million tons of debris. I remember the first time I heard that statistic, and I thought, I know that's a lot, but I have no way of really wrapping my head around that. So I found a comparison that made it more accessible to me, and maybe it will to you. Picture a sanitation truck, big truck. Now picture 108,000 of them. That's what it took to move 1.8 million tons of debris. It was taken over to Staten Island, one of the 5 boroughs that make up New York. Staten Island had a site there. It's called Fresh Kills. And that's where the remains were taken. And then they were sifted through, yet again, for at least the 3rd time, for evidence and human remains. This work was done by the police department and the FBI. The number of human remains that were recovered from the site is also a staggering number. It is over 20,000. And as of today, 41% of that number are people who have never been identified. That means that that morning, a little over 1,100 people basically vanished into thin air. I want to thank you, Dan and Anthony. Are you recovered a little bit now? Yeah. Anthony is a softie. Maybe one of the city's strongest, but he's a softie. And what I'd like to do now is just open this up to all of you. We have time for, maybe 1 or 2 questions. If anyone would like to ask, please feel free. Any brave souls? There you go.
How do you account for what are the factors that made people brave enough to risk their lives? How do the people who risk their lives differ from most of the rest of us who might not be able to summon that kind of courage?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Excuse me, let me just repeat it so everybody can hear it. The question was basically, what kind of person is it that can summon up the courage that was needed that day to be, for example, in Dan's position? Is it a regular person or is it just some other kind of being?
It's a great question, and I think it really comes down to how you want to perceive yourself the day after. And if you wear a uniform and your city's under attack, you got to show up. You got to put on your big boy pants, and you just got to show up. For civilians to do it, and there were many civilians who risked their lives to save their coworkers, I would just have to say that they have to live with themselves. And if you gave everything you had on that day, you had no problem on September 12th. You know, if you ran away and you left somebody behind, you may not like yourself the next day. So, you know, you have to protect yourself. You have to give it everything you got.
It is a great question. When you were talking then, I was thinking, when you were trying to get out from the rubble of the North Tower, do you have the experience of, I mean, is your heart pounding fast, or are you just so concentrated on what you have to do that you're not even aware of your physical self?
Yeah, what happens is, it's called, in police jargon, it's called tachypsyche. What happens is your body does an adrenaline dump, and you kind of like lose your hearing, and your peripheral vision kind of goes in like this. So you just have to, you're really focusing on like what it is that you're doing. It's like being in a shooting or something like that. I'm in the bomb squad, so like every time I'm on top of a package, my concentration is really focused. And so it's you know, I'm a unique duck. I don't know.
Can I answer that as well? You know, looking at a different perspective compared to Dan, as just a regular guy, I would say that, heaven forbid, something would happen right now. We're all strangers here. Every one of us would run to each other's aid. It's just something that happens. You may look the other way, you may look the other way from a distance, but when you're with people and they need you, it doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter what religion you are, it has nothing to do with anything, except for the way you react is, that person needs help, I'm going to help. And if that person helps you, I'm going to get up and help him, that person's going to get up and help me, and it's a chain reaction. And I can tell you, it is one of the greatest feelings there are in this world.
Good. We have time for one more.
First, thank you for your service. There's a lot of kids here today.
Yeah.
What kind of advice do you give children? If you want to pass on a message to kids today, telling them about how to live their life so that this kind of stuff doesn't happen.
You want to repeat that?
Yeah, the question is, there are a number of children, more than usual, here today. And what would either Dan or Anthony say to them in terms of what is a way to live your life so that we do not perpetuate September 11th?
I know I tell my grandchildren, I tell them to be themselves. So don't be afraid to reach out to help someone. Maybe because they look a little different, because they act a little different. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And I try to tell every young person, if you want to find worth in your life, and if you really want to find out why you're here, go volunteer and do something. Give of yourself and ask for nothing in return. Because the feedback that you get far exceeds what you think you're giving. And when I talk and I give tours with the Tribute Center, the people that I speak to, I tell them at the end of every tour, they did more for me by allowing me to talk than I could have done for them. And I think the reward that you get is so much more powerful than what you actually think you're giving.
I would have to say, like, you know, it's really a parent's job to do that, but I would say to kids, like, don't hang out with people you don't trust. If you get in trouble and the person that says they're your friend is not your friend, they're going to run away. Hang out with people you trust. Listen to your adult parents. You know, they got good advice for you.
That's great, though. Hang out with people you trust. So you have to learn to be able to read people and find out who can you trust, who's real and who's not. Good, good. Well, if anyone has anything else they'd like to say, I know we have a couple of questions maybe, but we're running a little bit tight on time. So what I invite all of you to do is afterwards, which will be not too long from now, we'll be here. So if you want to ask questions then, please do. So one of the questions that we are asked most often on tours, why do you do this? Why do you give tours? It can't be easy. Every is common to us all, and that is the hope that by telling our stories, we can show that September 11th was about more than loss. As horrific a day as it was about more than loss. That it was also about the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit and its enduring need to move forward. As for why we're now telling our stories here, that's very simple. We hope that by telling them here, it will help to enrich your museum experience. Finally, I would like to close with just one more comment, and this is about you, actually. I think it must be very easy from where all of you are to think that you are passive players in all of this. Not true. You actually play an essential part in our storytelling. Quite literally, without you, we would be talking to ourselves. But with you, we become in it together. So, on behalf of Tribute, on behalf of the boys and me, genuinely, thank you all for spending time with us today.